up out of the ocean and go down to the deep blue sea. I don't have the answers. If you think I do, then run away. I'm not a martyr, not a hero, not a saint. But if you think it's over for me, it ain't.
And welcome to a special edition of Service. And we're talking with Rockie, Lynne. Rockie, we're here in your home, and you just telling me the story off camera how you bought this home for your dad. So tell me about this. Tell me about this home.
Garrett, thank you for having me. Mm-hmm. Thank you for shining the spotlight on the world that you do and bringing your light and goodness to this world. Wow. Thank you very much. So I went in the Army back decades and decades ago with the desire of moving to California so I could try to learn how to play guitar. I'm still trying to figure it out. And so, fortunately for me, I was lucky enough to be just in the regular Army, in the infantry. And so we were always in the field, and I had saved every penny I had in the Army. And I got out of the Army, and my dad, who you have met before, and y'all featured on one of your shows.
What is it about Rockie that you just love?
Sir.
What is it about him you just love?
Everything.
Did you get that on tape?
Yeah.
Oh, you got that
everything.
I enjoy my son and to be with him.
He bought this house from the man who built it. His name was Paul, and Paul was retiring. And my dad, he's very smart. He's a very smart man, but he only has a 5th grade education because he grew up in the Depression. It was tough. He doesn't read. And he was kind of stuck because he didn't really understand the banking system or how to navigate those obstacles. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to buy this little house here for $13,000 in 1986 and give him a place to live. And then later on we moved here and able to help care for him as well.
Wow. Let's talk about the service. So you served and stationed at Fort Bragg, correct?
I was.
I worked in Fayetteville for a while, running Fox 99 and KISS radio stations and KML, the country station. But in terms of the things that you learned while you was in service, what sticks out the most?
Do you know how sometimes as we were growing up, you would hear your preacher say that God looks after those that can't look after himself? That's what the Army was for me. Okay. I'd love to sit here. I would love to sit here with my friend Garrett and say, I joined the Army because I'm patriotic and I wanted to serve my nation. But the truth is, I joined because I wanted to go to California. And the GI Bill would pay for it.
And then why'd you want to go to California?
To go to this guitar school so I could learn to play guitar and be Eddie Van Halen. That's what I wanted to do.
Right.
But what's interesting about that is that I got so much more out of the military service than they got out of me. I gave them 6 years of my life, but it changed the way I look at everything. I went in, I was fortunate enough to go in right after the Vietnam conflict had ended. It had been over for several years, but all of the non-commissioned officers, the senior sergeants and the NCOs at jump school and basic training were all Vietnam guys, hardened combat veterans. And they would kick you in the butt and say, go this way, do this. So every morning I get up, I make my bed, I go work my chosen profession, I take care of my family and my children, and I have all of those things in large part because those men set that example for me and made it so that I had to toe the line.
Right.
So for me, I look back at it as the biggest blessing ever. And now I have a charity that serves veterans. I spend my life trying to be in service of my fellow man. Those are all things that I learned by trying to be a good soldier. Because before you can be a good leader, you must be a good follower.
Right. So now after service, we're on our way to California, all right? So tell me what happened when you get to California.
Well, so because I live in such a small town, and I hope this doesn't sound like I'm bragging because I'm not, I'm just kind of setting the thing. At North Iredell High School, the school that I went to, I might have been the best guitar player in school.
Right.
One of the best. There was another guy, he was really good too.
Right.
But then in the Army, in my barracks, I was definitely the best guitar player in my barracks. Now that, not a big deal, but at the time it was, because I was, so I just knew that when I got to California, I just get discovered right away. That's what I thought. Here's how naive I was. They have these little battery-powered amps called Pig Nose. Right. It runs on batteries, and I had one, and I had a guitar, and so I moved to Hollywood, California. I'd never been to a city in my life. I'd never been in an airplane that landed. I'd only been in airplanes that I jumped out of. I was flew to California with my little amp and my thing, and my apartment was 1 block back from Hollywood Boulevard. You know where Mann's Chinese Theater is? It was Yucca Street, 1 street back. I could throw a rock and hit it. I was there. So the first thing I did is I went out and put my little amp in the courtyard where this hotel I had. This not hotel, but apartment.
Right.
And I just playing, figuring somebody's going to come discover me. That's what I thought. I was going to get discovered. And there was this gentleman who was working on the landscaping there, and I remember he had like, stringy hair, and he looked like he could use some hygiene, and he's working in the yards, and he kept watching me play, and I kept thinking, oh, he likes my playing, so I play faster. He likes my playing, he likes what I'm doing.
Right.
And he got about as close to me and you, and he looked at me and he said, there's a much easier way to do that. And I said, there is, and I handed him my guitar. Now realize I'm the best guitar player in my barracks. I'm the best guitar player in my town.
Right.
This guy took my guitar, and for the first time in my life, I heard my guitar play music, not notes. This is like an angel. This man, he played this beautiful melody that was so toneful and so full of soul. And then he handed the guitar back to me and said, thanks, man, and goes back to gardening. I picked my amp up and I walk upstairs to my apartment was about this big. It was 1 room. Right. And I sat it down. I'd been deployed in service of our nation to foreign lands. I'd been in a place where we had to have what they call a combat load. I wept. I sat there and I thought, oh my God, I'm not even as good as the gardener. And I had a very big choice. And the choice was dig in and try to learn it, or go home and be the best guitar player in this little town.
Wow.
And I chose that day to dig in and try to learn it. And as I sit here with you, I'm still trying to figure that out. But I think that there are people like that, just like those NCOs in the Army set that example for me. God sent that man to point me in the right direction, to take care of my ego. That day my ego died, and I realized I'm a student. And I will be a student of this guitar for the rest of my life. And I had fallen in love with guitar.
Right.
So like when I was in the orphanage, this man named Niley came, and he played acoustic guitar. Stuff like that kind of stuff, right? And I thought, man, I want to do that. But then I met this guy named Reggie, and I said, can you show me how to play? And he said, so the first song he showed me was Jumpin' Jack Flash, which is the wrong song to start on, because people always start like on an open chord where you make a chord. You play a chord, you do that. Maybe you start with Sweet Home Alabama. Something easy. But this has a bar chord, which means you got to do all the strings. All those chords, right. And I thought I'm never going to be able to do this, But that's the first song that I ever learned was the Rolling Stones song, Jumpin' Jack Flash.
You said you want to be the next Eddie Van Halen, so I know you got some Van Halen riffs in you, right?
Well, the thing about Eddie was the 2-hand, that kind of thing like that. But I also like the whole sweep picking kind of thing. But I also like the country pickers, like Steve Wariner and Ray Flack and all those guys, where it sounds like a banjo. That kind of thing. Wow. All those things have come in place to help guide me to the place that maybe I'm supposed to be in my life.
Right. When did your break come, or what you consider then your first break?
It depends on what you call your first break, Because you have to realize, growing up in this house, we didn't have a TV. Right. We didn't have an air conditioning. So when I got to the point that there was a roof over my head and I could feed myself, that was success. I remember the first job I got was in high school playing in a band called Dixie. And they paid $250 a week, which is, at that time way more than I could make at McDonald's.
Right.
Way more. And so to me, that was success, you know? And so then as every other thing happened, like as I began to play for people that had record deals, and I began to be a studio musician in Nashville, and then I've been fortunate enough to write songs, you know, that Steve Wariner has recorded, and Ricky Skaggs and New Blue and people like that. All of those things are really just building blocks on top of the idea that I have been fortunate enough to do something for a living that I would have gladly done for free. And that is maybe the biggest blessing in my life, is that I have always done something I'm passionate about and been able to find a way to sustain myself in that journey.
Were you ever signed to a record label?
I was on Universal Records.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Let's go back to how that deal came to be, and the excitement of finally sitting. I mean, what were the thoughts going through your mind, if you can remember?
So I had the very fortunate experience of playing with 4 really dysfunctional artists right in a row. I was a sideman in Nashville for years. I played with people who traveled on a bus, and I would be the guitar player in the band.
Right.
And I won't go through that.
Sure,
those
sure.
stories will be a whole nother show. But I decided after playing with these 4 dysfunctional artists, well, I can do this. If those guys can do that, I can do it. So I recorded an album, and I went on the road. I didn't know how to get a record deal. I didn't know anybody that. I played with people that had record deals, but I don't know how they got it. I just assumed they were good, and they went out and played, and people liked it. So that's what I did. I went out on the road and I played, and I ended up living in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I had this acoustic guitar case, and in the case, when you opened it up, well, I'll tell you what it said in a minute. So every time we'd play, I would set up lights and smoke machines, and and the year before I got my record deal, I did 320 one-nighters, and it was me. I'd set it all up.
25 days in a year.
Exactly. I did 320.
You was off one weekend.
Yeah, I was playing. And so I was playing this place called, it was in Prior Lake, Minnesota, whatever it was called. And I was playing there, and they had a snowstorm the day before. And this place is so remote that people come in their snowmobiles and park. And they had pushed all the snow in the parking lot right in front of the door you load in. So I was just going to set up a couple speakers and play my acoustic. And when I opened up my guitar case, I had a thing that said, play every gig like it's Carnegie Hall. And one day it will be. It was on my guitar case. And I slammed the guitar case shut, started dragging in those lights, because I had to put 100% effort. That night, this restaurant had a hallway it shared with a restaurant, and this side was a nightclub. And they shared a bathroom. Over in the restaurant part, there was a man from Prior Lake, Minnesota, who worked in the record business. And he went to the bathroom, and in the concert hall room, he saw a bunch of lights flashing and smoke. He would have never went in
if he didn't see that.
If he didn't see that. He comes in, listens to 3 songs, and goes to the lady that's selling my merch, her name's Sherry, and says, here's my card, I work for Warner Brothers. But I'm looking for an artist to sign, and he's got all the bills. Can I have one of these CDs? I don't have any cash on me. Do you take credit card? We didn't take credit cards. Right. And then she said, well, I can't give you a CD. But I'll give him the card. And she didn't. Oh, wow. She didn't give it to him. So at the end of the gig, she goes, and by the way, some guy come by, said he worked for a record label. I said, all right, well, I hadn't heard that before. Anyway, he got me an appointment in New York City, he and this lady named Lisa Levy, to go and play for Kevin Law at Universal Records. Now, to that point, I had never met anybody that worked for a record label, never did anything. So this guy, Bruce, and I flew to New York City, and we stayed at the Hudson. The room was about as big as this table. Had 2 beds in it, could barely fit anything. And that day I went and sat down with Kevin Law, who was vice president of Universal Records, and I had I think I remember it was a 15-minute meeting. It's supposed to be 15 minutes. And he said, sing me a song. And I sang a song. He said, sing me another song. And I sang another song. He said, sing me another song. And then he picked up his phone and he called Jen, his secretary. He said, Jen, cancel my day. I'm staying here. And I sang him every song the driver knew, everything I knew. I just sang and sang and sang. And he said, can you stay here and come tomorrow? I want to set something up. So the next day I went in, and it was Tommy Mottola, Avery and Monty Lipman and Doug Morris and Mel Lewinter, the biggest people in the music business. Thank goodness I was too naive to know who any of them were. I didn't know who they were.
Right.
And I sang my 3 songs and got offered a record deal. And within a year, I had a top 10 record.
Oh, wow.
In the charts, and I was on tour with Carrie Underwood with a bus. We went from a van and a trailer and me setting up stuff in the snow in Prior Lake, Minnesota, to that in just a little over a year. And it was really, you know, I had no idea what to expect.
Looking back on it, from the time you sung in that room with those dignitaries in that room, to the time you was on the tour bus, did life seem to go by like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, all of it has really.
Yeah.
I'm 59 years old, and I remember the first day I walked into this house, you know, all those years ago. And before that, I didn't have a house. I was in an orphanage, a place called the Berrien Springs Home for Children. So when I came in here to this house and said there's going to be a roof over my head and I'm going to have my own place and these people are going to care if I have something to eat, if I have something to wear.
Let's talk about life as an orphan. For those that are watching, sometimes I think we don't know our blessings. You know, we can be in a home with a mother and a father, but we don't get along with mom and daddy.
Right.
But you can have an orphan who doesn't have a mother and a father, and they can come into a home and automatically, you know, they're looked at as an outsider. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
What were some of the feelings you went through as an orphan, or did mom and dad make it to standpoint where you just became family?
Well, I think, now that I'm thinking about that question that you asked me, that it was really divine intervention in my life, because I was an older child, not an infant. You know, the babies get adopted right away, but the older children do not. And that's what I love about our movie, is that we made a movie about hope and about determination and perseverance. We could have made a really ugly movie. Orphanages and foster homes, like in the 60s when I was there, weren't a pleasant place to be. Fortunately, my memories are scattered. I don't have like dead set memories about a lot of things, but I have some. But I never will forget the moment that I felt included. And I think my parents, my mom and dad, had tried so hard to adopt, and because of we talked about my dad's educational level and those sort of things, those were hard for them to navigate. And I think because they'd had such trouble, they weren't able to have children themselves and they were financially struck. I think that they just saw it as, well, we can get rid of this older kid.
Right.
You can have this one, right?
Right.
But it was the perfect fit, because they all kind of like ostracized from society. Orphans are not looked at. You don't walk into you don't go to, if you're an orphan and they take you somewhere, it's like, oh, here come the orphans.
Right.
It's not like, here's a bunch of kids coming with their families.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I was here. I was somebody with their family. And here we sit, brother. What is it, 85 years later, however old he is? And we're still that family.
Wow.
I mean, what a gift.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember 16 years old, I found out that the man who I thought was my father wasn't my father. 16.
Wow.
And so he was my stepfather. And when I found out who my natural father was, curiosity. I wanted to get to know my natural father.
Yeah.
But then I was struggling with, I don't want my stepfather to think, you know, I want to leave, I don't love him, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So was there ever an urge to want to know, where did I come from?
For 39 years, I told myself, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where I'm from. This is where I am. This is my family. Doesn't matter what my roots were. And when people would bring it up, and especially after I got a record deal, there was people, their job is to get your story out there. And my job was that I'd been either lying about it or avoiding it for 40 years. I didn't want anybody to feel sorry for me and say, oh, he's from an orphanage. He's got scars all over his head. And I got scars, you know, from abuse. I just wanted to make it on my own merits. I'd been in the Army. I'd been deployed for our country. I don't need that.
Right.
And then when we started finding through the DNA process, my father, we found my biological father. He never knew that I was born, never knew that he had another son. He had a whole family. Guess what he did? He was a guitar player in a country band. He was a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne in the same unit that I was in. And he rode a motorcycle his whole life.
And you love motorcycles.
Crazy. My whole charity's based on motorcycles. What stunned me was that I had no idea where the family tree was.
It's okay, cool.
But I didn't fall very far
all
from
right,
it.
This is a lot. So when you began to get this information, what were the first thoughts going through your mind?
My first thought was, I don't want to upend anybody's apple cart. I don't want to show up and ruin what they think of this family. My first desire, when they said, okay, we found your sister, my sister was the first one they found. They're like, should we reach out to her? And I said, I don't know. Because what if they don't know anything about me? What if all of a sudden I destroy this picture of this man they think they know? My thought was, for the safety and the continuity and the love of the family, I don't want to interrupt this thing.
Right.
So we approached it extremely gingerly. And what's interesting is that my biological father, his wife had just passed away of 50-some years. They've been married, maybe long time. They've been married forever. And on her deathbed, she said to my sister, you should look around. There's probably some other family members out there. Told her to look. So they were looking for me.
And you was hesitant about revealing yourself to them.
And he calls himself, he said, I was a rounder in my younger days.
Right.
So I guess that's who he was, you know. But not only in my cases, you know, each case would be individual and specific. But in my case, they welcomed me with open arms. So I went from a Thanksgiving at this table with just my family and my dad to Thanksgiving at a church up in Wilkesboro with 50 people saying, oh, there's Uncle Rocky. Uncle Rocky's coming. I never knew that was important to me.
Right.
I never knew that I would love it. And now I don't believe I could live without it.
Wow. You remember the first time, right before you met him the first time? We
were going up to Wilkesboro. We had met the daughter. We met all the children actually first.
Right.
And they're all grown-ups. You know, I have an older sister that's a couple months older than I am. So we were in the pipeline at the same time.
Right. I
was nervous. He was unbelievably nervous because he did not really believe in DNA. He's a Korean War veteran as well, same as that, same as his dad, Korean War veteran, the whole thing. He was nervous about meeting me and wasn't sure that DNA was even real. So we met at a restaurant up in Wilkesboro where there's like a little room in the back where we could just sit and talk. And I sat beside him. And within just a few minutes, no more than 10 minutes, it was obvious that he was my father. Like they came to take the order and we ordered the exact same thing. We ordered the same food. And he sat there and I could tell there was something on his mind. And he grabbed my wrist like this and he squeezed it hard. And he looked at me and he said, I just want you to know, if I'd have known you was in that place, I'd have come and got you. Any minute. That man was telling me the truth. Had I known I had made another son, I'd have come and got you. And having lived 50 years and never having someone say something like that to you and feeling like you don't need to hear that and then hearing it was like a cavalcade of emotions. And I just took his hand back and I told him I loved him. And he told me he loved me back.
Wow.
And I was right by his side when he transitioned to heaven.
Wow.
You know.
So I understand he played guitar.
He played guitar.
Now, how did it come? How did you first find out he played guitar?
Well, it's kind of like his whole life was playing guitar. He drove a truck for a living, and then on the weekends he played in all these honky tonks around.
321 days out of the year.
Not that many. He wasn't playing as many days as me, but he was playing. But what really came to be our thing is that because he ended up having like when he was in the bed in his hospice at his house, he had our videos playing on the TV, and he had a picture of me at the Grand Ole Opry beside his bed, along with his other family, all his other kids in his family. They were all there raising him. He said to me, before he passed, he said to me, son, you did every single thing that I wanted to do and didn't. And so it really helped me with, I have this resolve in my heart that when the day comes that I'm looking back on life and everyone says, well, I wish I had done this or that, I won't have that to say. I did it regardless of the outcome. I rolled the dice because that's really the only time we get to do it. This is not practice life. This is life.
You have any mementos from him that you put in that case now that you open up?
I have his guitar.
Wow.
He was a blue-collar truck driver with 4 kids and a wife. His wife was a stay-at-home mother. So he worked. He worked hard. He bought a home and had a house. And sometime in his life, he bought a Martin D35.
Oh, my God.
Which is the nicest of the nicest Martins. And when you would go to the Ghost Town in the Sky or the VFW in Wilkesboro and see Clyde Holloway and his band, he'd be playing that guitar. And I'd go up there when he got to where he couldn't travel anymore, and it was during COVID. I would go up and I'd play guitar and sing with him on the couch, and we'd sit there. And one day he said, I got something I want to give you. And he got up and he's got the oxygen mask and the cable, and he goes into his room and he comes back with this case and he hands me his prize guitar. Now I know how much he loves his children. I know how much he loved his family. It meant everything to him. But he wanted me to have that guitar. And so the first song I wrote was called My Father's Guitar with that guitar.
Wow.
And the chorus goes, my father's guitar laid silent, because he couldn't play anymore. He had arthritis. In a closet in his home in Miller's Creek. His hands no longer play the way they used to. I guess he was keeping it from me. Well, back when he was younger on the road, he took it everywhere, or so I'm told. Honky-tonks and bars, underneath the stars, there never was a song he didn't know. My father's guitar laid silent in the closet of his home in Miller's Creek. His hands no longer played the way they used to. I guess he was keeping it from me. He called himself a rounder all his life. He made a few mistakes but saw the light. And as the story goes, and a few of you may know, I'm one of his mistakes that he made right.
So Rocky, back at your house, you talked with Garrett about the discovery of your father and your foundation, Tribute to the Troops. And now we're here at Tone's studio, where all the magic happens. And I hear this is where you recorded your latest album.
Music is magic. You know, it's kind of like finding that place in your soul where everything's right. You want to go in, take a look?
Absolutely. Thank you.
So there's several recording rooms. Maybe we'll start in the main room back here, and then we'll go to different ones. Yeah.
Is that you on a Wheatie box?
Well, it is. They were kind enough to ask me, the General Mills folks, to come and do a Veterans Day program. They have a whole bunch of employees and do great things for our veterans. And I did a Veterans Day event, and they were kind enough to put me on the Wheaties box a couple times up in the Midwest. It was a real blessing for us. We got another room with keyboards. I'll show you those too. But in here, it's kind of where, when I'm mixing, I'd be in here. You know, just listening to things and playing. I've got a session here. It's a little jazz song that I'm working on for our second movie, which is going to be interesting. It's a concert thing. Let's see.
There's a space in this heart of mine.
So there's the vocal, and you can do with it, you know, whatever you want to. Like if you were listening.
But now I will.
So everything's on a separate track. So you get the vocal, you can just have just that, and you can make it louder or softer, or add EQs, or added different effects to it, or something like that. But that's kind of what happens in here is the putting together of all of this, you know? And then the chorus.
For every storm, there's a rain.
Nice, right?
To follow in time, it moves so fast.
So there's about a million things to do to it.
So, do you play every one of these guitars?
One of the things that in this studio we're kind of old school about is that we still play everything. Like it's not samples and beats. It's like if there's a drum, somebody's in there banging on it, making that happen. So this room works in conjunction with the other room that we were just in. The sounds are made in here and then we record them in there. All of these rooms, as a matter of fact, that we're taking to, all these rooms are wired together. So any instruments or things that are set up are already set up to go back to this main room. So we are going into our pre-production room. This is a digital grand piano, which is super, super cool because it plays, you know, just like a real piano. It feels like a real piano. It adds a vibe, I think, to the whole facility. It just kind of feels different to sit behind a piano as opposed to a keyboard. You think? Mm-hmm. And work out our vocal parts or whatever we're doing, you know? You want to sing? Let's do a song about you. Let's make it up as we go. She came from Long Island up in New York to run a TV show and help her people out. But now she's gonna go back home and we're gonna play at the cutting room for you, for you. Sky's going home. Sky's going home. That's kind of pretty. Yeah, Sky's going home. Sky's coming home. Sky's coming home. Sky's coming home. I don't know the last chord. Maybe this? Nah. Yay, you can sing.
I like harmonizing.
I wish you could talk Susan into harmonizing with me. She can sing, but she I hear her doing it all the time. She always hears the harmony parts.
Oh, wow.
She has a natural gift, just like you. She just do it, but she won't ever sing with me. For my whole life, I'd always thought, I wonder what it would be like to build a guitar. And so during COVID, I met this man, and he made me a guitar body. He brought me just this, it looked like this. It's like this unfinished body here. And, well, it was this guitar. So we had a body, and then I've got this, the guy that does my guitar work for our band and our travel, his name is Chuck McNeil, and he's a world-class luthier. So he handled the neck and putting all that on. And here's what's interesting is we don't paint them. There's no paint on any of these guitars. These are all guitars that we've made from scratch. But what happens is we take leather dye. It's called Angelus leather dye. This is a sort of a yellow color. And you just put it on there until you get the wood the color you want. And then you do coats of true oil, which is what we put on like gun stocks when you buy like a rifle or something. In the Army, we'd use them to clean our weapons. And then after about 20 coats of true oil, it starts to shine. And what really struck us when we made the first guitars were that these guitars had so much sustain. Sustain is like when you hit a note and it rings. How long it rings is called the sustain of the note. And we found that these guitars, another thing I love about them is that you can see the handwork. It's all done by hand. You can see where we cut it, where we made it. It's not perfect. And like the new guitars that you buy, even the cheap ones, are kind of painted by robots and computers, which is fine, and it looks great. But I think that maybe all that paint and all that varnish and stuff, it chokes it a little bit. And the wood can't vibrate as much. That's a totally unprofessional opinion. That's what I think. That's what I think happens. Because when we made these guitars, they'd had so much sustain and so much life to them. Plus I had hundreds of hours of work into it. I felt like it was vested, you know? So when you come see us play, when you see my band play, I'm playing a guitar that I made.
Oh, wow.
Wow, right?
Wow.
I mean, so I have a memento of his every time I go on stage, because that's the guitar I play now.
Wow. Wow.
And it makes me feel closer to him.
Why did you start your ministry? I'm gonna call it a ministry of your motorcycles and why you ride and why did you do that? Why did you start that? And let everybody know what it is.
It was people like my dad that you met, and like the people in the Army that pointed me in the right direction. People of service that gave me a fighting chance to have a life. Most kids from an orphanage in 1965 didn't have much of a chance.
Right.
And a lot of those people that I was at the Barium Springs with, I can't find. I don't know what happened to a lot of those boys. So I ended up being able to forge a life out of a difficult situation. So it's my responsibility to try to pay that forward. And I try as hard as I can to help young musicians, to help them avoid some of the potholes that I ran through. If I'd have been a little smarter, a little better funded, a little whatever, I might not have had to do 320 days a year. But there's a lot of people, especially in our communities and in our African American community as well, that just need to be able to see beyond the situation they're in, to see beyond poverty, or to see beyond not having a father in the home, or seeing beyond not having a chance to go to a secondary education. And if we, you and me and the other people, can somehow or another reach down and help pull those people up, that's not just something we should do, it's our responsibility as good humans.
Right, right. And so tell us, what do you do when doing this event, when you ride to homes, and tell us about that.
So what Tribute to the Troops is, it started 21 years ago. We get on motorcycles, and now that we're nationwide, it's not just motorcycles. People come in cars and vans and church buses full of people. And if this was a house where a young man had grown up, or a young woman, and then had volunteered and went to Afghanistan and Iraq and lost their life, we'd show up. I mean, we called them first, but 200, 300 motorcycles show up. And I spend about a month looking into that man's life, because almost always, and we do a lot of lives where people lose their battle with post-traumatic stress, and they take their own life because they don't get the same benefits. And oftentimes they get ostracized from the military, especially if they had been discharged and they were suffering from post-traumatic stress or something. And I take the position that when a man or a woman loses their battle with post-traumatic stress and takes their own life, that it's not a suicide at all. It's not an alcohol or drug-infused moment. It's not a depressive episode. It's a 7,000-mile sniper shot.
Yeah.
It's a KIA by the Taliban. And it's an opportunity for us to say to those men and women that were the family, that we realize that every day there's an empty place at your table. Every day's Memorial Day at their house, brother. And it's our responsibility and our mission with Tribute to the Troops to acknowledge their sacrifice and to say to their family that we always will. Because I had a Gold Star mother, and a Gold Star mother is a mother who lost their son or daughter or more, say to me once,
remember the sacrifice that was made is huge in their healing process. We know what it meant to us, and it was life-changing.
Tad was a hero beyond all heroes. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Barb and the Herbis family.
It was an honor to have Tribute to the Troops come to visit us, but I believe it's even more of an honor for us now to go visit other families. If it gives just...
I believe my son died twice. The day that he died in the field in Afghanistan, and the day, pardon my French, but this is what she said, that nobody gives a shit. And we're trying to make it so there's never the day that nobody remembers.
Right. Wow. Man, that's very, very I can't find the word to say, but God has worked through you to help others. And all your experiences and through your journey, I think there's a service in you. And when I look at you, I just see service. You know,
Wow.
I think you're willing to serve the people who need service, whether it be your father, your stepfather, those wounded warriors, those families who've lost. I just see service in you, man.
Well, I think that God uses sometimes the lowest common denominator of us. You know, I'm not super well educated, I'm not well funded, but I have a heart that's willing to try to do it, and He's been able to open doors for me to be able to do that. I don't consider what I do a ministry or myself anything other than just a flawed sinner, you know, looking for forgiveness, praying for it.
Right.
But I believe that if all of us do the most we can, it'll help us make a better world for our children, which is what we should be doing. All this division and arguing and people only concerned about themselves has just really, it's gotten to a point of almost like a disease that's went through our nation and through our world, where people are so obsessed with their own forwardness, with their own house. So we got to have a bigger house, got to have a bigger car. You know, I don't think any of those things matter.
Tell our audience about the tiny homes that are being supplied for homeless veterans. When I walked into your father's tiny home, I could just see the smile on his face, like, this is going to be my house. You know, but his independence at 91, he was like, I want my independence, and just, something that small means so much to him.
And it's minimal what's in that home. You know, there's a small kitchen, a little place to eat, a bedroom, a place to wash clothes, and a place to go to the bathroom.
But at the end of the day, that's all you need.
It's all you need, and it also gives you a foundation, something to build from. These homeless veterans or any of the people, I mean, there's so many people experiencing homelessness in this nation.
Tell us about the homes that you provide for, or the organization you work with to provide homes for the homeless.
So Purple Heart Homes was started by John Galena and Dale Beatty. Dale Beatty was a double amputee from Iraq and was in a Humvee that got blown up. John was in the Humvee as well, and is also a combat wounded veterans that wanted, when they came back from Iraq, to somehow give back. And so they started Purple Heart Homes with the idea, this is back when the housing market had crashed, and they were trying to help veterans get loans or buy foreclosed houses at better prices. And then they found that what they do now is they build these tiny homes, they build them on site. They're like modular homes, so they're all in one piece. And then the veteran just needs a place to put it, you know, a place to have something. And they bring it out and they set it up and provide it for the veterans at no cost to the veteran, so that they can feel that sense of inclusiveness that gives them a building block to build their lives from. And I've seen firsthand how they have changed hundreds and hundreds of lives, because having a place where you belong changes your entire mental outlook. I mean, you just saw a 92-year-old man, like, this is going to be my house. I'm going to have a place. God, wouldn't it be great if not just veterans, but every American didn't have to worry about what they're going to eat, what they're going to do if they're sick, or a roof over their head. And in a country so opulent and so blessed, why in the world will we have citizens who struggle for the basic necessities of life? It makes no sense to me.
Well, people like you, you're doing a lot to kind of remedy that problem. Final question. What's next for you musically?
Well, we just did a Memorial Day concert down in Florida at the Villages, and that's coming out on Amazon and CeeLo. And on November the 18th, we're playing the Cutting Room in New York City. If you look it up, the Cutting Room, I mean, Billy Joel has played there, Lady Gaga. I'm not throwing names out. I had lunch with Paul McCartney, but I mean, it's a storied musical venue. And so we're filming it, and we're multi-track recording it, and we're going to play it, and we're going to release that to the world, because I play in this band of unbelievable musicians. I'm not. I'm like the lowest guy on the totem pole, and they make me look like I know what I'm doing. But I want everybody to hear these wonderful musicians that I play with. And our message, what's great about our music is we're not just singing songs, we have something to say.
Right.
You know, we've been to Afghanistan and Iraq multiple times to sing at Christmas, and we're looking forward to recording that and documenting it.
See, that's what I mean about service. You know, I asked you what's on next for you musically. You automatically talk about your band members. You automatically talk about how good they are.
They are.
And that's why I think with a heart like yours, you know, to serve, you know, this world's gonna be a better place. Man, thank you for inviting me to your home. And
you come to my home anytime.
I believe that.
I'm seriously invited. I really can cook a pretty mean steak.
We're gonna do that.
We'll bring everybody.
Okay.
Bring
No, we don't need to bring everybody. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. What a blessing. Thank y'all. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I'm here.